Hello and welcome to My Library Manager Part 5 using containers. In this lesson we'll be using containers to display high-level metrics in respect of our loans, but the learning point is much deeper than that. Apps that are truly responsive, ones that change shape based on the size of the screen that they're using, allow you to have a really great user experience for your app users. And a non-responsive app simply does its best to fit into the space available. So to this end, we'll be working with horizontal and vertical containers, and we'll use them to display some metrics for the Loans app. So let's move over to the exercise where we start building with containers. I'm on the Solutions tab of my environment within the Power Up tenant. I need to select on My School Library Solution and then go on to the Canvas app, My Library Manager. Select Edit. I'm going to select on my Loans Info container. I can either do that on the screen or I can select on it within the tree view. This is a horizontal container, and if you don't have one, you'll need to select Insert and then Horizontal Container and then select it to bring it in. We're now going to bring in two vertical containers inside this horizontal container. We're going to select Insert, and it's going to be a vertical container. I'm going to drag it onto the screen. I'm going to rename the container to be CTR Current Loans, and I'm also going to go onto the color property, and I'll give it a color so that it's easier to see on the screen. I'm now going to select Loans Info on the left-hand side, select Insert, search for Vertical, and I'm going to bring in a vertical container. Notice how this appears on the right-hand side of our CTR Current Loans. I'm going to rename this container. It's going to be called CTR Overdue Loans. I'd now like to make it easier for us to be able to see these containers, and I'm going to add a border to both of them. If I hold down Control, I can select both of these containers. I can now scroll down to the border, and I can make the border 2. The width of these controls is currently set by the parent. If I select on CTR Current Loans, and I change the width from flexible width to be off, it then effectively has a width of 500, and CTR Overdue Loans takes up the rest of the space. I'm now going to select CTR Overdue Loans and do the same thing. Notice how the position of both these controls is to the left-hand side, and that is set by the parent container. We can change the justify on this. We can make it central, as opposed to being a right justify, or a justify which increases the gap in the middle. I'm going to leave it at center. I'm also going to use the gap property in order to change the gap between the objects in our container. And one of my other options to work with the positioning of these objects is to work with the padding. I'm going to do a padding of 10 at the top and 10 at the bottom. At the moment, the alignment within the container is set to ensure that this stretches to fill the container. Now if we change this to put it central, and if we move on to the advanced and change the height to be 150, we can see how it's possible to manipulate the positioning of this container within its parent container. Let's do the same for the CTR Overdue Loans. I can select on this on the left-hand side, go onto the display, change the alignment in the container to be center, move on to advanced, then go on to the height and make that 150. Remember, with all of these properties, we could have done this on the formula bar. If I'd selected this, I can see that I've navigated at the top to the formula bar. I could have changed it here as well. I'd now like to bring some text boxes inside these containers, and these will indicate the number of book loans as well as the number of overdue loans. I'm going to first start by selecting CTR current loans, then insert, and I'm going to insert some text. And I'll also do this for a second time. I'm going to rename the first label to LBL total loans count, so I'll do that on the right hand side. Then I'll select on the second label and change the name of that. It's going to be label total loans. I'm going to move to the display properties. Where it says text for the LBL total loans, I'll just say number of book loans. I'm now going to select LBL total loans count. Instead of it being text, I'm going to use a formula. It's going to be GAL loans, and it's going to be all items count. Both the text and the number are only just about visible at the moment, and we're going to change that. If I scroll to the font size in the properties on the right hand side, I can select that. I'm going to make the font size 25. I'm going to make the font weight bold. I'm going to make the height of the text object 45. And I'm going to align it centrally within the container. I'm going to select the LBL total loans and do a similar exercise. The height is going to be 45. I'm going to align it centrally within the container. I'm going to scroll to the style and theme, make the font size 25, and I'm going to make the font weight bold. As you can see, this container is not sitting in well here, so I'm going to select the parent container, and I'm going to align it horizontally within the container and make all of the objects stretch. I'm now going to select on LBL total loans, and in the alignment I'm going to change that and make it center. And I'll also do the same thing with LBL total loans count. Finally, I'll move back to CTR current loans and change the vertical justification. Let's now check out a book and watch the values change. Select preview, check out book, find a student, Alex Smith, need a book copy, we'll go for Macbeth copy 1, then we'll check out book. We have a notification that we have successfully checked out a book, and we can also see the number of book loans is now 4. I'm now going to come out of preview, close this, okay. And as I don't currently have an overdue loan, I'm going to go to my model-driven app and change some of the figures. I'm in my environment, go to solutions, select on school library, select on apps, select on the loans manager model-driven app, and then we'll press play. Move down to the loans, select the drop down next to loans, and I'm going to select current loans. And this gives me the loans that we saw on screen. I'm going to select loan 1967. I'm going to change the date loan start, make that the 27th, and select the date due. We'll make that 2 days before today. Select save, and I can see that this is now showing as an overdue loan. I'm now returned to my model-driven app. I'm going to select the data, and I'm going to select on the loans on the 3 dots. I'm going to refresh this data. And I can now see that Macbeth copy 1 is 2 days overdue. I'm now going to update the information for the overdue loans. I'm going to select both of these controls under CTR current loans, right click, copy, select CTR overdue loans, right click, and then paste. The result isn't perfect, and that's mainly because our parent container doesn't yet have the right settings. Let's change the names of these controls. Go to the loans count, and it's going to be LBL total overdue loans count. I'm going to select on the second label, and it's going to be LBL total overdue loans. The text for this needs to be number of overdue loans. I'm now going to select the parent container, change the alignment within the container so the vertical is center, and the alignment on horizontal is also center. I'm now going to move back to the LBL total overdue loans and make the justification to stretch. I now need to update the count so that we can see the number of overdue loans. I'm going to select on LBL total overdue loans count. I'm going to change this text. I'm going to remove this formula. It's going to be count rows. And it's going to be filter, open parentheses, and it's going to be gal loans dot all items, then put a comma. We'd like to find those ones where the days overdue is greater than 0. Then close the parentheses on the filter and close the parentheses on the count rows. Now let's preview the app to see if it works as expected. We can now check in Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, check in, and the number of book loans changes to 3. If I check in Macbeth Copy 1, which is currently overdue, we can see that the number of overdue loans shifts to 0 and the number of book loans is now 2. Finally, if we search for a student, search off that, we can see that the figures in our dashboard also change. And this brings us to the end of this exercise. Close out and make sure you save and publish your app. We've come to the end of this lesson on using responsive containers. We brought 2 vertical containers within one horizontal container, and we then used some power effects to help us to present some information about our loans. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in future videos.